Chapter 1. Welcome to Rome. Thank you for being here, and for choosing to spend this quiet time with me. Whether you are listening late at night, early in the morning, or simply taking a moment away from the noise of the modern world, you are welcome. If you find yourself enjoying these long-form stories of the past, you are gently invited to support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It helps these calm journeys continue, and it allows more people to discover a slower way of learning history. For now, there is nothing you need to do but listen, breathe, and allow the world outside to fade. Tonight, we are traveling far back in time, to a place that is often remembered for its greatness. The Roman Empire is usually imagined as a world of marble temples, disciplined legions, mighty emperors, and endless conquest. In books and films, it appears powerful, organized, and almost timeless. But beneath that polished surface was a life that was harsh, exhausting, and dangerous for most people who lived within its borders. This is not the story of emperors or generals. This is the story of you, an ordinary person, waking up inside the Roman Empire, and discovering why you would not last even a single day. As this story unfolds, you will not be watching Rome from a distance. You will be inside it. You will feel the weight of its rules, the pressure of its expectations, and the quiet fear that shaped daily life. You will walk its streets, breathe its air, eat its food, and live under its laws. This is not a fast story. It is meant to move slowly, calmly, like a long walk through a world that no longer exists. Let each scene settle before the next one begins. Imagine, for a moment, that the modern world loosens its grip. The hum of electricity fades. The glow of screens dims and disappears. The air around you grows heavier, filled with unfamiliar smells. Stone replaces steel. Fire replaces light bulbs. The steady rhythm of machines is replaced by human voices, animal sounds, and the distant noise of a waking city. You are no longer protected by modern comforts or knowledge. You are stepping into a time where survival depends on your body, your status, and your obedience. The Roman Empire stretches across vast distances, from cold northern frontiers to sun-scorched deserts. But tonight, your journey begins in one place, the heart of the empire. Rome itself. It is early morning. The sun has not fully risen yet, but the city is already alive. Slaves are awake before dawn, carrying water, sweeping floors, and preparing food. Shopkeepers begin to lift wooden shutters. Carts creak along stone streets, their wheels worn smooth by centuries of use. Above it all, the massive buildings of Rome loom silently, reminders of power that feels both impressive and intimidating. You quickly realize that Rome is not quiet, not clean, and not kind. The air smells of smoke from cooking fires, of waste left in the streets, of animals penned too close to human homes. The buildings tower above you, blocking the sky, creating narrow corridors of shadow even as the day begins. Everywhere you look, there are people, and almost all of them are tired. Life here does not slow down for anyone, and it does not forgive weakness. As you stand there, at the beginning of this imagined day, it becomes clear that the Roman Empire was not built for comfort. It was built for control, efficiency, and power. The laws, the customs, the traditions, and the violence all serve one purpose: to keep the empire functioning, no matter the cost to individual lives. If you are strong, wealthy, or powerful, Rome can serve you well. If you are not, Rome will consume you without hesitation. This is the world you have entered. A world where birth determines your future, where illness is often a death sentence, and where safety is never guaranteed. Over the next chapters, you will experience life as most Romans did, not through heroic stories, but through ordinary survival. You will see how childhood begins with danger, how work grinds bodies down, how law offers little mercy, and how death is always close, waiting quietly in the background. So settle in. Let your breathing slow. Allow the noise of your own time to fade away. The day in the Roman Empire is about to begin, and before it ends, you will understand why so few truly survived it. Chapter 2. You are born into the empire. You do not arrive in the Roman Empire with celebration or ceremony. There is no gentle welcome, no careful preparation for your comfort. Your life begins in uncertainty, and from the very first breath, survival is not guaranteed. Birth in Rome is not a miracle to be cherished. It is a risk, a gamble taken by your family, and sometimes a burden they are not sure they can afford. You are born at home, not in a clean, quiet room, but in a crowded living space filled with the smells of smoke, sweat, and old stone. The floor beneath you is hard. The air is thick and warm, heavy with tension. There is no trained doctor present for most births, only a midwife whose knowledge comes from experience rather than science. She has seen many babies arrive into this world, and she has seen many not survive it. Her hands are steady, but her tools are simple, and there is little she can do if something goes wrong. Your mother is exhausted, her body pushed to its limits. Childbirth in the Roman Empire is dangerous, and everyone in the room knows it. Women die giving birth with frightening regularity. Infection, bleeding, complications that cannot be treated, all of these are accepted risks. There is fear in the room, even if no one speaks it aloud. If your mother survives, she is considered fortunate. If she does not, the household will mourn briefly, then move on. Life in Rome does not pause for grief. When you are finally born, the first question is not whether you are healthy or happy. The first question is whether you are worth keeping. In Roman society, your life is not automatically yours. It belongs, legally and culturally, to the head of the household, usually your father. He has the power to accept you or reject you. This moment, quiet and deeply unsettling, determines everything. If you are born weak, deformed, or simply unwanted, you may be exposed. This does not always mean an immediate, violent death. Often, it means being left outside, on a roadside, near a rubbish heap, or by a city wall. Some exposed infants are taken in by others, raised as slaves or laborers. Many die slowly from cold, hunger, or animals. This practice is not hidden or rare. It is an accepted part of Roman life, spoken about without shame. If your father chooses to accept you, you are lifted from the ground. This simple act is a declaration that you will be allowed to live, at least for now. But acceptance does not mean safety. It only means that your life has officially begun inside a world that does not protect the weak. Your social status is decided instantly, before you can speak or even see clearly. You are born into a rigid hierarchy that you cannot escape. If your parents are wealthy citizens, your life will be difficult, but manageable. If they are poor, enslaved, or foreigners, your life will be a constant struggle. Rome is deeply unequal, and it makes no attempt to hide this fact. Some people are meant to rule, others to obey, and most to endure. If you are born into slavery, your fate is sealed from the first moment. You are not considered fully human in the eyes of the law. You are property. Your body, your labor, your future, all of it belongs to someone else. Families can be separated at any time. Children can be sold. There is no legal protection for your emotions, your pain, or your attachments. Love exists, but it offers little defense. If you are born free but poor, life is only slightly kinder. Your family likely lives in a cramped apartment building, an insula, rising several stories high. These buildings are poorly constructed and dangerously overcrowded. Fire is a constant threat. Collapse is always possible. The streets below are narrow and loud, filled with carts, animals, and shouting voices. Privacy does not exist. Noise never truly stops. In these early days, your chances of survival are slim. Infant mortality in the Roman Empire is brutally high. Many children do not survive their first year. Illness spreads easily. Clean water is not guaranteed. Simple infections can turn fatal. There are no vaccines, no antibiotics, no understanding of germs. Your body must survive on its own, or it will fail. Your name, if you receive one, often comes later. In some families, naming a child is delayed until it is clear they will live. This delay is practical, not cruel by Roman standards. Naming a child who dies quickly is seen as emotionally wasteful. Attachment is dangerous in a world where loss is common. Religion surrounds your birth, offering both comfort and fear. Gods are believed to influence everything. If you survive, it is because the gods allowed it. If you die, it is because they did not. Amulets may be placed near you. Small prayers are whispered. But faith does not replace care, and superstition cannot cure disease. As days pass, if you are still alive, your family begins to invest in you emotionally. But even then, love is tempered by realism. Children are expected to contribute early. There is no long, protected childhood. From the moment you can walk, you are being shaped for usefulness. Your worth is measured not in dreams or happiness, but in what you can provide. You grow in a world where violence is normal, where death is visible, and where suffering is shared quietly among millions. The Roman Empire is vast and powerful, but it is built on fragile human lives like yours. Each stone in its roads, each brick in its buildings, represents labor, exhaustion, and loss. As you lie there, small and unaware, your future stretches ahead, already narrowed by circumstance. You do not know it yet, but Rome will demand much from you. Strength, obedience, endurance. And it will offer very little in return. This is how your life begins in the Roman Empire. Not with promise, but with survival as the first and greatest challenge. And the day has only just begun. Chapter 3: A Childhood Without Protection. If you survive your earliest days, there is no sudden moment when life becomes safe. Childhood in the Roman Empire is not a protected space, not a gentle pause before adulthood. It is simply the earliest phase of endurance. As you grow, your world remains harsh, and the expectations placed upon you arrive long before you are ready to carry them. From your first years, you are surrounded by reminders that life is fragile. Death is not hidden from children in Rome. You see it in the streets, in the homes around you, and sometimes within your own family. Siblings disappear quietly, taken by illness or accident. Neighbors mourn briefly, then return to work. Grief exists, but it is private and restrained, shaped by the understanding that more loss will come. You learn early not to ask too many questions. Your days are not structured around play or education unless you are born into wealth. There are no toys made just for you, no carefully designed lessons meant to nurture curiosity. Instead, you observe, imitate, and learn through necessity. You follow adults as they work. You watch how food is prepared, how water is carried, how tools are handled. Mistakes are not treated gently. Pain is considered an effective teacher. Discipline in Roman households is strict and often physical. Obedience is valued above comfort. Children are expected to listen, to comply, and to remain silent when adults speak. Fear is not seen as harmful, it is seen as useful. A frightened child is a controllable child, and control is essential in a society that depends on order and hierarchy. If your family is poor, you are drawn into labor almost as soon as your body allows it. Small tasks come first: carrying water, gathering firewood, watching younger siblings, running errands through crowded, dangerous streets. Each responsibility is small on its own, but together they shape your understanding of the world. You learn that your time does not belong to you. It belongs to survival. Education, as Rome understands it, is a privilege. Wealthy families may hire tutors or send their sons to schools where they learn reading, writing, rhetoric, and law. But even for them, education is strict and often harsh. Teachers use corporal punishment freely. Mistakes are corrected with pain. Learning is not about joy or discovery. It is about discipline and preparation for power. For most children, education is informal and practical. You learn numbers only as far as they help with trade. You learn letters only if your future demands it. Many never learn to read at all. Knowledge is something you overhear, something passed down through work and routine rather than books. Girls grow up under a different weight. From an early age, you are taught that your value lies in obedience, modesty, and fertility. Marriage is discussed openly while you are still young. You are prepared for a future that will be decided by others. Childhood ends not with maturity, but with arrangement. You will be given to another household, expected to bear children, and to survive risks that are rarely spoken about but always understood. Boys are pushed towards strength and endurance. Tears are discouraged. Weakness is mocked. You are taught to accept pain quietly. Rome needs laborers, soldiers, and workers more than it needs sensitive children. Emotional resilience is not nurtured. Emotional suppression is. The environment around you offers little comfort. Streets are dangerous. Traffic moves quickly and without concern for small bodies. Animals roam freely. Fires break out without warning. Buildings collapse. Falling debris kills without ceremony. There is no safety infrastructure, no one whose job it is to protect children specifically. Survival depends on awareness and luck. Illness follows you constantly. Fevers, coughs, infections, parasites. Many children live with chronic discomfort, never fully healthy, never fully resting. Medicine is limited and often harmful. Treatments can be as dangerous as the illnesses themselves. Recovery is uncertain. Death is common enough that it becomes familiar. Through all of this, you grow not softer, but harder. You learn to endure hunger. You learn to ignore discomfort. You learn to accept authority without question. Childhood in Rome does not prepare you for happiness. It prepares you for endurance. By the time you reach what Rome considers maturity, much of your personality has already been shaped by necessity and fear. You have learned your place. You understand the limits of your freedom. You know what happens to those who step outside their assigned role. This is not a childhood designed to nurture dreams. It is a childhood designed to produce adults who will keep the empire running. And as you grow, Rome's demands only increase. The innocence of youth fades quietly, not stolen in a single moment, but worn away day by day. Chapter 4. Hunger is a constant companion. Hunger in the Roman Empire is not an emergency. It is not a sudden crisis that arrives without warning and then disappears again. Hunger is a background presence, woven quietly into everyday life. It shapes how you think, how you move, and how you measure time. Even on days when you eat, hunger is never far away, waiting patiently for the next opportunity to return. Your diet depends almost entirely on who you are and where you stand in Roman society. For the wealthy, food can be varied and abundant, served in courses, flavored with spices brought from distant lands. But you are unlikely to belong to that world. For most people, food is simple, repetitive, and rarely satisfying. The foundation of your diet is grain, usually wheat, ground into flour and baked into bread or boiled into porridge. It fills the stomach but offers little pleasure. You eat it because you must. Bread is life in Rome. When grain supplies are stable, the city functions. When they falter, fear spreads quickly. The Roman state understands this, especially in large cities like Rome itself, where hundreds of thousands depend on regular deliveries of grain from distant provinces. Ships cross seas to keep bellies full. When storms delay them, or politics interfere, hunger tightens its grip. If you are a poor citizen in the city, you may rely on the grain dole, a system designed to prevent unrest. On certain days, you stand in long lines, waiting patiently, hoping the supply has not run out before your turn arrives. The grain you receive must be carried home, ground, and prepared. It is not generous, and it is not guaranteed. Missing a distribution can mean days of hunger. If you are not a citizen, or if you live outside the city, there is no safety net. Rural families depend entirely on their own labor and the unpredictability of the land. A bad harvest can mean slow starvation. There is no external help coming. You eat less. You stretch meals thinner. Children are given smaller portions. Weakness becomes visible. And still, work continues. Meat is rare for most people. When you taste it, it is often during festivals or special occasions. Fish, when available, is more common, but preservation methods are crude. Food spoils quickly. Salt is valuable. Fresh produce depends on season and access. Even then, fruits and vegetables are not always clean. Dirt, insects, and rot are accepted parts of eating. Meals are not leisurely moments. They are functional. You eat quickly, often standing, surrounded by noise and movement. There is no guarantee of privacy or comfort. Hunger encourages speed, not enjoyment. You eat while you can, because you do not know when the next opportunity will come. Children feel hunger deeply. Growing bodies demand energy that is rarely provided in full. You learn to ignore the hollow feeling in your stomach, to work despite weakness, to sleep through discomfort. Hunger becomes a familiar sensation, almost comforting in its predictability. It teaches patience, but also desperation. For enslaved people, food is controlled by owners. Rations are calculated to keep bodies functioning, not thriving. A weak slave is a poor investment, but excess food is wasteful. Hunger is used as discipline. Obedience is rewarded with sustenance. Resistance is punished with deprivation. Food becomes a tool of control. In cities, hunger is closely tied to crime. Theft increases when supplies run low. Punishments are severe. Stealing bread can lead to beatings, imprisonment, or worse. The law does not bend easily for hunger. Survival does not excuse crime in Roman eyes. Famine, when it comes, is devastating. Crops fail. Supplies shrink. Prices rise beyond reach. The poor sell belongings, then dignity, then hope. Parents face impossible choices. Illness spreads faster among the malnourished. Death becomes common, quiet, and unavoidable. Rome's power feels distant and irrelevant in these moments. Even on better days, hunger shapes your thinking. You plan your movements around food. You measure effort against calories. You save scraps. You learn what plants are edible, what leftovers can be reused, what risks are worth taking for a meal. Hunger is always present, even when your stomach is full. As evening comes, you may eat your final meal of the day. It is simple, repetitive, and small. You go to sleep not satisfied, but quiet. Your body rests, but it does not recover fully. Tomorrow will demand energy you do not have, and yet you will rise again. This is life in the Roman Empire. A life lived not in constant abundance, but in constant calculation. Hunger is not dramatic, not heroic. It is steady, patient, and unforgiving. And as the day continues, hunger is joined by another challenge just as unavoidable: the environment itself, where water, filth, and disease exist side by side, shaping every breath you take. Chapter 5: Water, Baths, and Filth. Water is everywhere in Roman imagery. Grand aqueducts stretch across the landscape. Fountains flow endlessly in city squares. Public baths are celebrated as symbols of civilization and order. From a distance, it appears that Rome has mastered water, bending it to its will. But as you live within the empire, you begin to understand that access to water does not mean cleanliness, and abundance does not mean safety. If you are wealthy, water can be brought into your home through private pipes. But for most people, water must be collected daily. You rise early, carrying containers through narrow streets, joining lines at public fountains. The water flows constantly, but it is shared by many. You wait your turn. You hurry back before crowds grow impatient. Spills are costly. Every drop matters. The water you collect looks clear, but appearances deceive. Pipes are often made of lead. Contamination is common. The connection between water and illness is not understood. If you fall sick, the water is not blamed. Fate, the gods, or bad air are. You drink because you must. Thirst leaves no room for caution. Public baths are a central part of Roman life, open to almost everyone for a small fee. They are impressive spaces, filled with steam, voices, and movement. For a brief time, you can feel warm, surrounded by others, sharing a ritual that seems to promise cleanliness and relaxation. But beneath the surface, the baths are far from sanitary. Water in the baths is reused. Hundreds, sometimes thousands, of bodies pass through the same pools each day. Dirt, sweat, oils, and bodily fluids mix together. Scrapers are used to remove grime from skin, but the waste often returns to the water. Skin conditions spread easily. Infections find ideal conditions. The baths cleanse the body only in appearance. Latrines are communal and unavoidable. Long stone benches line the walls, holes cut at regular intervals. There are no partitions, no privacy. You sit beside strangers, exposed and vulnerable. Waste flows beneath your feet through shallow channels, carried away slowly, if at all. The smell is constant, heavy, and impossible to ignore. There is no toilet paper. Instead, a shared sponge on a stick is used, rinsed in water and passed from person to person. The practice is so common it is barely questioned. Illness spreads quietly through such routines. No one connects the dots. Sickness is simply part of life. In many places, waste does not reach latrines at all. Chamber pots are emptied directly into the streets, often from upper floors. You learn to watch where you walk and when. Warnings may be shouted before waste is thrown, but not always. Streets are wet, slippery, and foul-smelling. Shoes are stained permanently. Bare feet are dangerous. Animals share the city with you. Horses, donkeys, pigs, dogs, and rats move freely through streets and alleys. Their waste adds to the filth. Dead animals are not removed quickly. They lie where they fall, swelling in the heat, attracting insects. The city breathes decay. Disease thrives in this environment. Fevers, dysentery, skin infections, parasites. You may feel healthy one day and dangerously ill the next. Medical knowledge cannot explain why. Treatments focus on balancing humors, purging the body, or appealing to divine forces. Often, the cure weakens you further. Children are especially vulnerable. Their smaller bodies succumb quickly to dehydration and infection. Many do not recover. Death in childhood is so common that it barely disrupts daily life. Families grieve quietly, then continue. Despite all of this, water remains essential. You cannot avoid the fountains, the baths, the latrines. They are woven into daily survival. Cleanliness, as you understand it, does not exist. Instead, there is only routine, habit, and acceptance. The Roman Empire prides itself on order and engineering, yet beneath its stone and marble lies a world where filth is unavoidable. You breathe it in. You step through it. You live within it. And over time, it shapes your body, weakening it slowly, preparing it for the next strain. As the day continues, the city around you grows louder, more crowded, more intense. The smells deepen. The air thickens. And soon, you begin to understand that Rome assaults not only the body, but the senses themselves. Chapter 6. The Smell of the City. Long before you fully understand the dangers of Rome, you understand its smell. It reaches you before anything else, before the noise, before the crowds, before the towering buildings that block out the sky. It is constant, layered, and impossible to escape. The city announces itself through scent, and once you live within it, that scent becomes part of your daily existence. The smell of Rome is not a single odor, but many, all competing for space in the air. Smoke drifts from countless cooking fires, clinging to clothes and hair. Wood, charcoal, and dung burn together, creating a sharp, heavy haze that settles low in the streets. Even indoors, the scent follows you, trapped in poorly ventilated rooms where windows are small and light is scarce. Waste is everywhere, even when you do not see it. Human refuse, animal droppings, rotting food, and stagnant water combine into a sour, sweet, unmistakable stench. In narrow alleys, the smell grows stronger, trapped between walls where sunlight rarely reaches. Flies gather in thick clouds. Rats scurry through shadows, feeding on whatever they find. Markets add their own layers. Fish left too long in the heat, meat hung without proper preservation, vegetables already beginning to rot. The smell of blood mixes with the scent of spices, oil, and sweat. Vendors shout over one another, but even their voices cannot distract from the odor. You breathe through your mouth when you can, but that brings its own discomfort. Tanneries are among the worst. Leather is processed using urine and animal waste, creating a smell so powerful it clings to anyone who passes nearby. These workshops are often placed downwind, but the wind does not always cooperate. When it shifts, entire neighborhoods are swallowed by the stench. Latrines overflow. Drains clog. Rain does little to clean the streets, instead spreading filth further. In summer, heat intensifies everything. In winter, dampness traps it. There is no season where the city smells clean. You grow used to it in a way. The human mind adapts when it must. What once made you recoil becomes background noise. But the body does not forget. Nausea comes easily. Appetite fades. Headaches linger. The smell is not just unpleasant, it is a constant reminder of decay, of how thin the line is between life and death. Homes offer little refuge. Poor families live in small, cramped spaces with minimal airflow. Cooking, sleeping, and living all happen in the same room. Odors build quickly. Washing clothes is difficult and infrequent. Clean water is too valuable to waste. You wear the same garments day after day, and they absorb the city's scent until it becomes part of you. Even the wealthy cannot escape entirely. Their homes are larger, their spaces more controlled, but servants bring the outside world in with them. Waste must still be managed. Animals are still nearby. The city presses in from all sides, relentless. The smell affects how you see others. Poverty is recognizable not just by clothing, but by scent. Slaves, laborers, the sick, all carry the marks of their environment. Compassion exists, but distance grows easily when discomfort is constant. Over time, the smell of Rome becomes a symbol of its reality. This is not the clean, shining empire of statues and stories. This is a living, breathing organism, consuming resources, producing waste, and sustaining itself through the exhaustion of millions. The smell is the price of civilization as Rome understands it. As the sun moves higher in the sky, the city grows busier. Work intensifies. Bodies move through streets already crowded and heavy with scent. There is no pause, no escape, no quiet corner where the air feels truly fresh. And soon, the demands of survival pull you deeper into the machinery of the empire. The day does not allow rest. Work waits, and it will take from you whatever strength you have left. Chapter 7. Work until your body fails. Work in the Roman Empire is not a means to self-fulfillment or personal growth. It is survival, pure and simple. From the moment your body is strong enough to contribute, it is expected to do so. Rest is a luxury. Exhaustion is normal. Pain is something you learn to carry without complaint. If you are poor and free, your work options are limited. You labor where labor is needed, and Rome always needs labor. Construction sites dominate the city, where new buildings rise and old ones are repaired constantly. Stone is hauled by hand. Mortar is mixed endlessly. Scaffolding creaks under the weight of men and materials. Falls are common. Injuries are frequent. There is no compensation for harm. If you can no longer work, you are replaced. Manual labor grinds bodies down quickly. Joints ache. Backs bend permanently. Hands harden, crack, and bleed. Cuts become infected. Minor injuries linger, slowly weakening you. There is no concept of long-term recovery. You work through pain, or you do not work at all. In workshops, conditions are little better. Blacksmiths breathe in smoke and metal dust. Potters inhale fine particles of clay. Bakers work near constant heat, waking before dawn and sleeping late. Accidents happen regularly. Burns, crushed fingers, severed limbs. Medical help is minimal. Survival depends on luck and resilience. If you are enslaved, work is even harsher. Your labor is not just expected, it is owned. You have no choice in what you do or how long you do it. Some slaves work in households, cooking, cleaning, caring for children. Their lives are still controlled, but they may avoid the worst physical strain. Others are sent to farms, quarries, or mines, where life expectancy is brutally short. Mining is among the deadliest forms of work. Underground tunnels are dark, cramped, and filled with dust. Air is scarce. Cave-ins are common. Many never see daylight again. Slaves in mines are considered expendable. Their deaths are accepted as part of production. Agricultural labor follows the rhythm of the seasons, but it does not slow down. Planting, harvesting, maintaining fields, tending animals. Days begin before sunrise and end after sunset. Weather offers no mercy. Heat exhausts. Cold stiffens. Rain soaks through clothing, and work continues regardless. Children work alongside adults. Their smaller bodies are used where size is useful. They carry loads, tend animals, assist in workshops. Childhood labor is not seen as exploitation, it is seen as preparation. Everyone must learn their place. Payment, if you receive it, is often unstable. Wages can be delayed or withheld. Employers hold power. Complaints are risky. Hunger waits just beneath the surface, ready to return if work falters. There are moments of rest, but they are brief. Festivals provide temporary relief. Religious holidays pause certain labors. But these moments pass quickly, and the routine resumes. The body never fully recovers. Each day takes a little more strength than the last. Work defines identity in Rome. What you do determines how others see you, how you are treated, and how much you matter. Those who do not work are suspicious. Those who cannot work are burdens. As you labor, you begin to understand the quiet cruelty of the system. Rome's grandeur is built on ordinary bodies pushed beyond their limits. Roads, temples, baths, and walls rise because countless people give their strength, their health, and often their lives. By evening, your body aches. Your hands tremble with fatigue. You return home or to your quarters, not refreshed, but depleted. Sleep offers little relief. Tomorrow will demand the same effort, and your body will answer, until one day it cannot. This is how Rome functions. Not through inspiration or loyalty, but through relentless labor. And as you work, you are always aware that beneath every free worker stands a much larger group whose suffering is even greater, whose lives are owned entirely by others. To understand Rome fully, you must understand slavery. Chapter 8. Slavery was the backbone. Slavery in the Roman Empire is not hidden, and it is not rare. It is everywhere, woven into daily life so completely that many do not question it. As you move through the city, you see enslaved people carrying water, cleaning streets, preparing food, teaching children, managing accounts, and dying in mines. Rome does not function without them. Its power rests quietly on their forced labor. If you are enslaved, your life belongs to someone else in every sense that matters. You are not a person under the law. You are property. Your owner can buy you, sell you, punish you, or kill you with little consequence. There are rules, but they exist mostly to protect property, not humanity. Slaves come from many places. Some are born into slavery, never knowing freedom. Others are captured in war, taken from distant lands, forced to adapt to unfamiliar languages and customs. Some fall into slavery through debt or punishment. The reasons vary, but the result is the same: complete loss of control over your own life. Families are not respected. Parents and children can be separated at any time. Spouses can be sold away from each other. Love exists, but it lives under constant threat. Attachments are dangerous when ownership can change with a transaction. Daily life as a slave depends on your role. Household slaves may live indoors, eat better food, and avoid the harshest labor. But their lives are closely monitored. Privacy does not exist. Mistakes are punished. Loyalty is demanded, not earned. Field slaves and laborers face brutal conditions. Long hours. Physical punishment. Exposure to weather. Little rest. Owners measure success and productivity, not well-being. A slave who works too slowly is beaten. One who resists is made an example. Punishment is public and humiliating. Whippings are common. Branding marks bodies permanently. Crucifixion, the most feared punishment, is used to deter rebellion. Bodies are left on display, a warning to others. Fear is a tool of management. There is always the possibility of manumission, freedom granted by an owner. But it is rare and uncertain. Even freed slaves remain socially limited. Their past follows them. Their children may gain more freedom, but the stain of slavery lingers. For free people, slavery shapes attitudes. Compassion exists, but distance is easier. When suffering is normalized, it fades into the background. Slaves become part of the scenery, their pain expected and overlooked. Children witness this system and learn quickly. Power is something you hold or something you endure. Morality bends around survival. Empathy becomes selective. As a slave, hope is dangerous. Dreams can lead to despair. Survival requires emotional restraint, acceptance, and endurance. Each day is lived one command at a time. Slavery reveals Rome's true priorities. Order over compassion. Efficiency over dignity. The empire values results, not lives. Even if you are free, slavery affects you. It shapes the economy, the culture, and the laws. It creates constant tension, fear of revolt, distrust between classes. Rome stands tall, but its foundation is fragile and cruel. As the day progresses, you begin to understand that Rome's laws exist not to protect everyone equally, but to maintain control. Justice here is not blind. It sees status, wealth, and power clearly. To survive Rome, you must understand its law and fear it. Chapter 9: Law Without Mercy. The law in the Roman Empire is spoken of with pride. Romans believe themselves to be a people of order, reason, and structure. Their legal system is admired, recorded, and enforced with confidence. But as you live beneath it, you begin to understand that Roman law is not designed to protect everyone equally. It exists to preserve hierarchy, authority, and control. Mercy is not its purpose. From the moment you interact with authority, your status matters more than truth. A wealthy citizen's word carries weight. A poor laborer's does not. An enslaved person's testimony is often ignored unless extracted through torture. Justice here is not blind. It looks carefully at who you are before deciding what you deserve. If you are accused of a crime, the experience is swift and frightening. There is no assumption of innocence. There is no guaranteed defense. Trials, when they happen, are public and intimidating. Crowds gather not out of concern for fairness, but out of curiosity. Punishment is spectacle as much as consequence. For minor offenses, penalties can include fines, beatings, or forced labor. But what is considered minor depends entirely on who commits the act. Stealing food out of hunger may be understood privately, but legally it is still theft. Hunger does not excuse crime. Poverty does not soften punishment. More serious crimes bring harsher outcomes. Imprisonment exists, but prisons are not places of rehabilitation. They are holding spaces, dark, crowded, and brutal, where disease spreads quickly. Prison is often a temporary stop before execution or forced labor. Physical punishment is common and accepted. Whipping, branding, mutilation. Pain is seen as corrective. Public punishment reinforces order by reminding everyone what happens to those who step out of line. Fear is considered an effective teacher. Crucifixion stands at the extreme end of Roman punishment. It is slow, humiliating, and deliberately visible. Victims are left exposed for days. Death comes through exhaustion, dehydration, and suffocation. This punishment is reserved for slaves, rebels, and the lowest classes. Roman citizens are usually spared this fate, a privilege that highlights the cruelty of the system. The law is also deeply patriarchal. The head of the household holds legal power over family members. Discipline within the home is largely private and protected. Abuse is rarely questioned. Authority begins at home and extends outward into the state. Appealing a decision is difficult and dangerous. Challenging authority can worsen your situation. Silence is often safer than protest. Compliance becomes a survival strategy. Even when the law appears orderly, it is enforced unevenly. Corruption exists. Bribes influence outcomes. Connections matter. Justice can be purchased by those who can afford it. As you observe this system, you learn to stay invisible. You avoid attention. You follow rules even when they feel unjust. Survival depends on knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The law in Rome does not promise fairness. It promises order. And order, in this empire, is maintained through fear, pain, and public example. As the day continues, you notice crowds forming in open spaces. People gather, talking quietly, anticipation in their voices. Something is about to happen. In Rome, punishment and entertainment often share the same stage. Chapter 10: Violence as Entertainment. By the time you notice the crowd gathering, you already understand that something unpleasant is about to unfold. In Rome, people do not gather quietly without reason. Curiosity here is rarely innocent. It is drawn toward pain, toward spectacle, toward reminders of power made visible through suffering. You follow the movement of bodies through the streets, not because you want to, but because the flow of the city carries you along whether you resist or not. Public spaces in Rome serve many purposes. Markets by morning, political assemblies by midday, and often, places of punishment and entertainment by afternoon. The boundaries between these uses are thin. A square where you bought bread yesterday may today host a beating, an execution, or a public humiliation. The stone remembers nothing. The people remember only briefly. You arrive near an arena, not necessarily the grand Colosseum of later centuries, but one of many structures designed to hold crowds and focus attention inward. The air is different here. Thicker. Charged. Voices overlap, rising and falling like waves. Vendors move through the crowd selling cheap food, watered wine, and snacks. Children cling to parents. Old men lean on staffs. This is not a gathering of the violent alone. It is the whole city, present and watching. Violence in Rome is not hidden from ordinary people. It is integrated into social life. It is meant to be seen, to be felt, to be discussed afterward as casually as the weather. The Roman state understands that fear works best when it is visible, and that distraction works best when it is dramatic. Executions often happen first. Condemned criminals are brought forward, bound, and exposed. Their crimes may be announced, but often the details are unclear or irrelevant. Guilt is assumed. Sympathy is rare. The crowd reacts not with outrage, but with expectation. This is how justice looks in Rome. Some executions are swift. A sword stroke. A hanging. Others are deliberately prolonged. Condemned individuals may be forced to fight animals, untrained and unarmed, while the crowd watches closely. These deaths are not accidents. They are designed. Pain is part of the message. You feel a tightening in your chest as you watch, but you do not look away easily. Around you, others lean forward. They comment. They react. Laughter and cruelty mixed in uncomfortable ways. The crowd does not see itself as cruel. It sees itself as entertained. Gladiatorial combat follows, and here the atmosphere shifts again. Gladiators are not criminals, at least not always. Some are slaves. Some are prisoners of war. Others are volunteers, driven by debt, desperation, or the faint promise of fame. They are trained carefully, fed better than most, and valued as investments. But their lives still belong to the crowd. The arena is carefully designed to focus attention. Sand absorbs blood. High walls contain chaos. The roar of the audience surrounds the fighters, pressing in from all sides. When the combat begins, it is violent, but also controlled. Weapons are chosen. Pairings are deliberate. Death is not guaranteed, but it is always possible. You watch as men clash with shields and blades, their movements practiced, efficient, and brutal. Each strike carries weight. Injuries are real. Blood spills freely. The crowd reacts to every moment, cheering skill, mocking weakness. The fighters perform not just for survival, but for approval. When one falls, wounded and unable to continue, the moment stretches. The defeated gladiator looks to the crowd, and then to the official presiding over the games. A hand gesture will decide his fate. Mercy or death. The crowd's mood matters. The spectacle demands satisfaction. Sometimes mercy is granted. A skilled fighter may be spared to fight again. Other times, death is demanded, and delivered cleanly or cruelly, depending on the circumstances. The body is dragged away. The sand is raked smooth. The next fight begins. You realize something deeply unsettling as you watch. This violence is not chaotic. It is organized. It is ritualized. It serves social functions beyond entertainment. It reinforces hierarchy. It reminds everyone present of the state's power over life and death. It channels aggression outward, away from rebellion and toward controlled targets. Children watch these events alongside adults. They absorb the message early. Pain is normal. Death is public. Power decides who deserves mercy. There is no attempt to shield young minds from brutality. Exposure is considered preparation. Even outside the arenas, violence is visible. Street fights break out. Beatings are administered by authorities. Slaves are punished openly. Bodies are left on display after executions as warnings. The city teaches through fear and repetition. You begin to understand that entertainment in Rome is not about joy. It is about release. It allows the population to experience strong emotion without challenging the system that oppresses them. Anger, frustration, boredom, all are redirected into spectacle. For a brief time, you feel something dangerous stirring within yourself. A numbness. A distancing. Repeated exposure dulls the senses. What once shocked now feels expected. This is how Rome survives itself. By making cruelty familiar. As the crowd slowly disperses, conversations buzz with excitement. People debate performances. They argue over decisions. Life resumes almost immediately. Shops reopen. Children play. The day continues. But something has changed. You carry the memory with you. You understand now that in Rome, violence is not an exception. It is a feature. It is a language the empire speaks fluently, and one you must learn to understand if you hope to survive. As evening approaches, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. Violence does not affect everyone equally. For women, the dangers of Rome take different forms, quieter but no less deadly, woven into daily existence from childhood onward. Chapter 11: Women's Lives and Daily Danger. If you are born female in the Roman Empire, the dangers you face are quieter, more private, and often invisible to history, but they are constant and deeply woven into everyday life. From your earliest years, expectations close in around you, shaping your future long before you are able to understand it. Your body, your labor, and your choices are never fully your own. They are managed, negotiated, and controlled by others, all within a system that sees your value primarily in what you can provide to family and state. As a girl, you grow up quickly. Childhood passes without ceremony, slipping away under the weight of preparation. You learn household tasks early, not as optional skills, but as necessities. Cooking, cleaning, spinning, weaving, caring for siblings, these are not chores, but training. Mistakes are corrected firmly. Efficiency is praised. Silence is often expected. A well-behaved girl is one who takes up little space and draws little attention. Education, when it exists, is limited. Wealthy families may teach daughters to read or write, but this knowledge is often secondary to domestic readiness. Public life belongs to men. Politics, law, military service, and most professions are closed to you by custom and expectation. You may influence your household quietly, but openly, your authority is minimal. Marriage arrives early. Often much earlier than your body or mind is prepared for it. Matches are arranged, not chosen. You are promised to a man you may barely know, sometimes significantly older than you. Consent is not central to the process. Marriage is a contract between families, designed to secure alliances, property, or status. Once married, your legal identity shifts. You move from the authority of your father to that of your husband. Obedience is assumed. Your role is clear: manage the household and produce children. Love may develop, but it is not required. Stability matters more than affection. Pregnancy is one of the greatest dangers you face. Childbirth in the Roman Empire is unpredictable and often fatal. There are no effective ways to manage complications. Infections are common. Bleeding is poorly controlled. Many women die in labor, leaving families shattered briefly before routines resume. Death in childbirth is so common that it is feared quietly, discussed rarely, and accepted publicly. Those who survive childbirth often face repeated pregnancies. Contraception exists in limited, unreliable forms. Large families are encouraged, especially among citizens. Each pregnancy weakens the body further. Recovery is incomplete. Pain becomes familiar. For enslaved women, the risks are greater still. Your body belongs not just to a household, but to an owner. Sexual exploitation is common and largely unpunished. Children born to enslaved women inherit their mother's status, becoming property themselves. Motherhood offers no protection, only additional vulnerability. Violence within the household is often tolerated or ignored. Roman law prioritizes male authority. Discipline is considered a private matter. Abuse may be severe before it draws outside attention. Endurance is expected. Speaking out is dangerous. Public spaces offer limited refuge. Streets are crowded and unpredictable. Harassment is common. Safety depends on reputation, accompaniment, and circumstance. Moving alone can invite trouble. Yet life requires movement, and risk becomes routine. Despite all of this, women are not passive. They find ways to survive, to influence quietly, to protect their children, to build networks of support with other women. Strength exists here, but it is constrained, forced into narrow spaces. As you live this life, you understand that danger in Rome does not always announce itself loudly. It often whispers, embedded in custom, law, and expectation. Survival requires caution, awareness, and resilience. The day continues, and as the sun begins to lower, illness and injury, constant companions in Rome, move closer, reminding you how fragile the human body truly is in a world without mercy. Chapter 12: Medicine Without Relief. Illness in the Roman Empire does not arrive as an interruption to life. It arrives as an expected companion, moving quietly through homes, streets, and bodies, touching everyone eventually. When you fall sick, There is no sense of surprise, only concern over how severe it will be, and whether you will survive it. Health is fragile here, and recovery is uncertain. From childhood onward, your body is exposed to conditions that slowly weaken it. Poor nutrition, contaminated water, relentless labor, and constant exposure to filth all take their toll. Small injuries become serious. Simple infections linger. A cough can turn dangerous. A fever can carry you away within days. The boundary between living and dying is thin, and it shifts constantly. Doctors exist in Rome, but their abilities are limited by misunderstanding. Medicine is based on theories of balance, of humors within the body that must be corrected through purging, bleeding, or diet. When you are ill, treatment often weakens you further. Bloodletting is common. Vomiting and diarrhea are encouraged. The body is drained in the hope that sickness will leave with it. Surgery is practiced, but without anesthesia. Pain is accepted as unavoidable. If you require an operation, you are restrained. Alcohol or herbal mixtures may dull awareness slightly, but consciousness remains. The knife cuts cleanly, but infection waits patiently afterward. Many survive the procedure only to die days later. Wounds from work or violence are frequent. Cuts, burns, broken bones. There are splints and bandages, but cleanliness is poor. Dirt enters wounds easily. Pus is considered a sign of healing. Gangrene is feared but poorly understood. Amputation may be attempted, but survival is uncertain. Dentistry is crude and terrifying. Tooth pain is common, driven by poor diet and infection. Extraction is the usual solution. Teeth are pulled forcefully, sometimes cracking the jaw. Relief may come, or death may follow from infection. Mental illness exists but is not recognized as such. Anxiety, depression, trauma, these are seen as weakness, imbalance, or spiritual failure. There is little sympathy. People endure silently or break publicly, and both outcomes are dangerous. Herbal remedies are widely used. Some help. Many do nothing. Others cause harm. Knowledge is passed through tradition rather than testing. Superstition mixes freely with medicine. Amulets are worn. Prayers are spoken. Sacrifices are offered to gods believed to control health and fate. For the poor, medical care is often inaccessible. Doctors charge fees. Treatment is reserved for those worth saving, those whose survival benefits a household or owner. Slaves may receive care only if their labor is valuable. Otherwise, illness is allowed to take its course. Hospitals as you understand them do not exist for civilians. Care happens at home, if at all. Families manage illness privately, often without guidance. Isolation is rare. Disease spreads easily among households and neighborhoods. Epidemics arrive without warning. Entire areas fall at once. Fear spreads faster than understanding. People flee cities, carrying disease with them. Death piles up quietly. Bodies are burned or buried quickly, sometimes carelessly. Life resumes with fewer people. As you live in this world, you learn not to expect health. You learn to work through pain, to ignore discomfort, to accept weakness as normal. The body is a tool, and like all tools, it wears down. When relief comes, it is temporary. The next illness waits. The next injury waits. Survival is not about avoiding sickness, but enduring it repeatedly until you cannot anymore. And as night approaches, fear shifts from the body to the unseen. In Rome, illness is not just physical. It is spiritual, supernatural, and deeply entangled with belief. The gods are watching, and their favor is never guaranteed. Chapter 13: Faith, Omens, and Superstition. In the Roman Empire, belief is not a private matter. It does not live quietly inside your thoughts, waiting for moments of reflection. Faith surrounds you constantly, pressing in from every direction, shaping decisions both large and small. It explains illness, justifies suffering, and offers comfort without certainty. To live in Rome is to live beneath the gaze of unseen forces, always watching, always judging, never fully understood. From the moment you wake, religion frames your day. Small shrines sit in corners of homes and shops, offerings placed carefully before them. A bit of bread, a splash of wine, a whispered request. These acts are not dramatic, but routine, performed with the same regularity as eating or working. You do not ask whether the gods exist. Their presence is assumed. What matters is whether they are pleased. Every household honors its own spirits. The Laras and Penates, guardians of family and home, are believed to protect daily life. Neglecting them is dangerous. A forgotten offering can explain sudden illness or misfortune. When something goes wrong, the question is not what caused this, but who was offended. Public life is saturated with ritual. Before political decisions, sacrifices are made. Animals are slaughtered, their entrails examined carefully. Priests study signs in blood, shape, and color, searching for approval or warning. If the omens are unfavorable, plans may be delayed or abandoned. Even emperors hesitate when the signs are bad. Power does not exempt anyone from divine judgment. You learn early to watch for signs. A bird flying the wrong direction. A sudden noise. A stumble at the threshold. These moments carry meaning. Ignoring them feels reckless. Life is already uncertain enough without angering unseen forces. Illness, especially, is deeply tied to belief. When sickness strikes, it is rarely seen as random. Perhaps a vow was broken. Perhaps a god was neglected. Perhaps someone nearby has brought spiritual contamination. Remedies include prayers, offerings, pilgrimages, and charms. Healing temples attract crowds of the desperate, sleeping on stone floors, hoping for divine dreams that will guide them back to health. Fear exists alongside faith. Gods are not gentle figures offering unconditional love. They are powerful, unpredictable, and easily offended. They demand respect, attention, and sacrifice. Punishment is rarely immediate or obvious, which makes it more frightening. You never know which mistake triggered misfortune. Foreign gods enter Rome freely. Conquered lands bring their beliefs with them. Temples rise to Isis, Mithras, Cybele, and countless others. Religion in Rome is expansive, absorbing rather than excluding. But this abundance does not bring peace. It brings anxiety. With so many gods, who must be honored? Who has been neglected? Superstition fills the gaps between belief and understanding. Amulets are worn to ward off evil. Curses are written and buried. Magical formulas circulate quietly. People seek protection wherever they can find it. When control is limited, ritual offers the illusion of influence. Death deepens religious fear. The afterlife is uncertain. Some believe in shadowy continuance. Others fear restless spirits. Proper burial is essential. Without it, the dead may wander, angry and dangerous. Families go to great lengths to honor the dead, not only out of love, but out of fear. For the poor, religion can be both comfort and burden. Offerings cost resources. Sacrifices require food that could be eaten instead. But refusing to give feels dangerous. Hunger is preferable to divine anger. For enslaved people, faith may be the only internal refuge left. Gods offer a sense of meaning when autonomy is gone. But even belief is shaped by ownership. Religious participation depends on permission. Even prayer is constrained. You notice how often people blame themselves for suffering. When crops fail, when children die, when bodies break down, the explanation turns inward. Someone must have failed. Someone must have offended the gods. Guilt becomes part of survival. As night falls, lamps flicker in doorways and streets. Shadows stretch across stone walls. The darkness feels alive. The world beyond human control presses closer. You lie down, not knowing what tomorrow will bring, and you hope, quietly, carefully, that whatever powers rule this world will pass over you without notice. In Rome, faith is not about peace of mind. It is about managing fear. And fear, like hunger and labor, never truly leaves you. The night grows deeper, and with it comes another reality of Roman life, one shaped not by gods, but by steel, discipline, and endless marching feet. War is never far away, and soon it will reach for you. Chapter 14: Soldiers of the Empire. War in the Roman Empire does not begin with battle. It begins quietly, long before swords are drawn or shields are raised. It begins with obligation, with expectation, with the slow realization that the empire's reach extends into every life, including yours. Whether you live near the frontier or deep within the heart of Rome, the presence of the army is constant, shaping society even when no fighting is visible. If you are a young man of suitable age and status, military service hangs over your future like a shadow. Rome prides itself on its legions, on discipline, order, and endurance. To serve is considered honorable, but honor does not soften hardship. It simply gives suffering a name. Recruitment can come in different forms. Some enlist willingly, drawn by the promise of steady food, pay, and the faint hope of land or reward after years of service. Others are conscripted, taken because the empire demands bodies. Choice exists, but it is limited, shaped by hunger, poverty, and lack of alternatives. Refusal is dangerous. Avoidance is temporary. When you join the army, your identity changes immediately. Individuality fades. You are issued equipment, clothing, and rules. Your body becomes property of the state. Training begins almost at once, and it is relentless. Marching dominates your days. Miles upon miles under the weight of armor, weapons, and supplies. You learn to move as part of a unit, not at your own pace, but at Rome's. Discipline is strict and unforgiving. Mistakes are punished harshly. Disobedience can lead to beatings, reduced rations, or death. Collective punishment is common. If one man fails, the group suffers. Fear becomes a tool for cohesion. Loyalty is enforced, not requested. Life in the Legion is repetitive and exhausting. You dig trenches, build camps, repair roads, chop wood, carry supplies. Fighting is only a small part of military life, but it is the part that defines everything else. Preparation never truly ends. Food is better than what many civilians eat, but it is still simple and monotonous. Grain, porridge, bread, occasionally meat. Hunger remains familiar. Comfort is minimal. Sleep is often interrupted. Weather is endured without complaint. Cold stiffens joints. Heat drains strength. When battle comes, it arrives suddenly and violently. The order is given. Lines form. Shields lock together. Noise erupts, shouting, metal striking metal, the screams of men and animals. Training takes over. There is no time to think, only to move, thrust, block, survive. Death is close and impersonal. Men fall around you. Some die instantly. Others scream for help that cannot be given. Blood soaks into the ground. The smell of iron and fear fills the air. You fight not for glory, but because stopping means dying. Afterward, there is no celebration. The dead are counted. The wounded are treated as best they can be, often without proper care. Those who survive move on quickly. The army does not linger. Rome always has another objective. Psychological wounds are not recognized. Fear, trauma, grief, these are weaknesses to be buried. You are expected to endure silently. Nightmares are ignored. Memories are carried quietly, shaping you in ways you do not fully understand. If you survive your service, which can last decades, you may be rewarded. Land, money, citizenship. But survival is uncertain, and many never reach that moment. They die far from home, buried in foreign soil, remembered briefly and then forgotten. For civilians, the army is both protector and threat. Soldiers bring order, but also violence. Occupied regions suffer. Supplies are taken. Discipline falters. Power corrupts even disciplined men. As you live in Rome, you realize that war is not an event. It is a condition. The empire expands, defends, and maintains itself through constant readiness for violence. Even in peace, war shapes lives. And as the legions march outward, they leave behind consequences, broken homes, displaced people, and scars that do not fade easily. Soon you will see how war does not stay on distant frontiers. It comes home, quietly at first, then all at once. Chapter 15. War comes home. War in the Roman Empire is often imagined as something distant, happening far away at the edges of the map, beyond the mountains or across the sea. It is easy to believe that battles belong to soldiers alone, that the violence of conquest remains contained on foreign soil. But as you live within the empire, you learn that war never truly stays where it begins. It moves slowly, quietly, carried home in small, ordinary ways, until it becomes part of daily life even for those who never lift a weapon. It begins with absence. Men leave and do not return. Some are taken by the army, others by trade disrupted by conflict, others by death that never receives a clear explanation. Households adjust. Labor is redistributed. Women take on heavier burdens. Children grow up faster, filling gaps left behind. War reshapes families long before it reshapes cities. Then come the refugees. They arrive gradually at first, individuals or small groups, carrying what they can manage. Their clothing is worn. Their faces are tired. They speak of villages burned, of crops destroyed, of soldiers passing through without mercy. They settle where they can, often on the edges of cities or in overcrowded neighborhoods already struggling to survive. Rome absorbs them, but not gently. Resources stretch thinner. Tension grows. Food becomes more uncertain. Supply lines are disrupted. Grain shipments are delayed or redirected. Prices rise. Hunger tightens its grip. For the poor, this is immediate and painful. For the wealthy, it is an inconvenience. The gap between classes widens, and resentment simmers beneath the surface. As war drags on, taxes increase. The empire demands funding for legions, fortifications, and administration. Collection is aggressive. Officials arrive with authority and little patience. Payment is expected whether you can afford it or not. Those who cannot pay lose property, freedom, or dignity. The empire does not pause its demands for personal hardship. Violence follows soldiers even when battles end. Veterans return home carrying memories they cannot share. Some struggle to reintegrate into civilian life. Discipline fades without structure. Alcohol dulls pain. Domestic violence rises quietly. Trauma has no name, no treatment. Families absorb the consequences silently. In frontier regions, war is never abstract. Raids occur without warning. Villages are attacked. People flee in the night, leaving homes behind. Safety becomes temporary, fragile. You learn to listen for distant sounds, to read signs in smoke or silence. Sleep is light. Trust is cautious. Even in cities, fear grows. Rumors spread quickly. Stories of defeat or rebellion circulate, exaggerated with each retelling. Confidence in Rome's power wavers. The sense of order that once felt solid begins to crack. People look for scapegoats. Foreigners, the poor, religious minorities, anyone different becomes suspect. The state responds with force. Patrols increase. Laws tighten. Punishments become harsher. Public displays of control grow more frequent. Rome reminds its people who holds power, even as that power feels increasingly strained. Children grow up surrounded by this atmosphere. They hear stories of violence. They watch adults worry. Their understanding of the world is shaped by instability. Peace becomes something spoken of in the past or hoped for in the future, never fully present. You begin to understand that war does not end when treaties are signed or battles are won. Its effects linger in bodies, in minds, in systems pushed beyond their limits. It alters priorities. It erodes compassion. It normalizes hardship. As the empire stretches itself thinner, maintaining control over vast territories, the pressure on ordinary lives increases. Rome demands loyalty, taxes, labor, and silence. In return, it offers protection that feels less certain with each passing year. By the time war has fully settled into daily existence, it no longer feels dramatic. It feels ordinary. This is perhaps its most dangerous form. When instability becomes normal, people adapt rather than resist. Survival replaces hope. And as the day moves on, another reality becomes impossible to ignore. In times of stress, when resources are scarce and fear is widespread, desperation grows. Crime increases. Trust erodes. The streets feel more dangerous, and poverty reveals itself not as a temporary condition, but as a permanent trap for many. Rome is powerful, but it is also fragile. And you live within that fragility, trying to endure one more day. Chapter 16: Poverty, Crime, and Desperation. As the pressures of war, hunger, and instability settle deeper into daily life, poverty in the Roman Empire becomes impossible to ignore. It is no longer just a condition affecting certain households or neighborhoods. It is a constant presence, visible in faces, movements, and choices. Poverty here is not temporary misfortune. It is a long, grinding reality that shapes behavior, relationships, and morality in ways that are difficult to escape. If you are poor, every day begins with calculation. What can you afford to eat? Where can you work? Which risks are worth taking? There is no cushion, no savings to soften mistakes. A single bad decision, a single illness, a single missed opportunity can push you from survival into desperation. And once there, climbing back becomes nearly impossible. Housing for the poor is crowded and unsafe. Insulae rise several stories high, packed tightly together. The lower floors are expensive and slightly safer. The upper floors are cheap, unstable, and dangerous. You may live high above the street, climbing narrow staircases daily, knowing that fire or collapse could trap you with no escape. At night, the building creaks and shifts. Sleep is light. Fear lingers. Privacy does not exist. Walls are thin. Sounds travel easily. Arguments, illness, crying children, and quiet despair bleed into one another. You know your neighbors' lives whether you want to or not. Their suffering becomes familiar, almost normal. Work is inconsistent. Some days you find labor. Other days you do not. Employers take advantage of desperation, offering less pay for more effort. Complaining risks losing everything. Hunger waits patiently for weakness. As poverty deepens, crime becomes not a moral failure, but a survival strategy. Theft increases. Pickpockets work crowded streets and markets. Burglaries happen at night. Small gangs form, offering protection in exchange for loyalty. Violence escalates quietly. You learn to guard what little you have. Trust becomes rare. Kindness is risky. Helping one person may mean depriving your own family. Moral choices are no longer abstract. They are immediate and painful. The law does not distinguish between desperate theft and greed. Punishment is swift and harsh. A stolen loaf of bread can lead to a beating or worse. Fear of punishment competes with fear of starvation. Sometimes hunger wins. Children are pulled into this world early. They beg. They steal. They run messages for criminals. Innocence erodes quickly. Survival teaches lessons faster than any school. For those already marginalized, foreigners, freed slaves, religious minorities, poverty carries additional danger. Suspicion follows them. Blame is assigned easily. In times of stress, violence looks for convenient targets. Alcohol becomes an escape. Taverns fill with those seeking relief from exhaustion and fear. Fights break out. Accidents happen. Addiction spreads quietly. The line between relief and ruin is thin. Despite this, community still exists. Neighbors share food when they can. Families support one another. Small acts of kindness survive in narrow spaces. Humanity does not disappear, but it is strained, fragile, easily broken. As night falls, the streets change. Darkness brings danger. Patrols move through the city, but safety is inconsistent. You walk carefully, alert to footsteps, voices, shadows. The city feels alive, watchful, unpredictable. Poverty strips away illusion. It reveals the empire's priorities clearly. Rome rewards power, wealth, and obedience. Those without these must endure, adapt, or disappear. And as you lie down at the end of another exhausting day, you realize that survival in Rome is not about strength alone. It is about endurance in the face of constant uncertainty. Tomorrow offers no promises, only the chance to try again. But time is relentless. Bodies age. Strength fades. And in a world without safety nets, growing old brings a new kind of fear, one that cannot be outrun. Chapter 17: Aging Without Care. Aging in the Roman Empire is not marked by rest, reflection, or dignity. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed at first, hidden beneath routine and responsibility. There is no clear moment when youth ends and old age begins. Instead, the body slowly betrays you, one ache at a time, in a world that offers little patience for weakness. From the moment you are able to work, your value is tied closely to what your body can produce. Strength, endurance, and speed are rewarded. As years pass, these qualities fade gradually, but expectations do not adjust easily. Rome does not slow down for aging bodies. It simply replaces them. If you are fortunate enough to survive into later life, you do so carrying the accumulated damage of decades of labor. Your back bends permanently. Joints ache in cold and damp weather. Old injuries never healed properly and now return as constant pain. There is no concept of preventative care, no gentle management of decline. Pain becomes a companion, accepted quietly. Work continues for as long as possible. Retirement, as you understand it, does not exist for most people. A few soldiers may receive land after long service. Some wealthy citizens step back from active labor. But for the majority, survival depends on continued contribution. When you can no longer work, your position becomes uncertain. Families often provide the only support. Children care for aging parents when they can, but they are under the same pressures you once faced. Food is limited. Space is tight. Illness spreads easily. The burden of care can strain already fragile households. Compassion exists, but resources do not. For those without family, aging is dangerous. Loneliness becomes physical. Without income, food becomes scarce. Housing becomes unstable. Begging may be the only option. The streets are not kind to the old. Weakness invites exploitation. Cold and hunger take their toll quickly. There are no pensions, no state-funded support systems. The empire invests in conquest, infrastructure, and control, not in caring for those who have given their lives to its maintenance. Once your usefulness fades, so does Rome's interest in your survival. Illness increases with age. Chronic conditions worsen. Vision fades. Hearing dulls. Balance falters. Falls become common and often fatal. Recovery is slow, if it happens at all. Medical care remains limited and expensive. Treatment is often withheld when survival seems unlikely. For women, aging carries additional challenges. Widows may lose protection and status. Remarriage is possible but uncertain. Economic vulnerability increases. Social respect depends on family connections. Without them, isolation grows. Memory begins to change. Faces blur. names slip away. There is no understanding of cognitive decline as illness. Confusion may be seen as foolishness or divine punishment. Patience wears thin. Despite this, elders are not entirely discarded. Experience is respected in some contexts. Advice is sought. Stories are told. Wisdom is valued when it serves others. But respect does not equal care. It does not provide food, warmth, or safety. As the body weakens, fear grows quietly. Not fear of death itself, but of the process leading to it. Of becoming a burden. Of being abandoned. Of suffering without relief. You begin to notice how quickly society moves on from loss. Death is common. Mourning is brief. Life continues. The empire cannot pause for individual endings. As night falls more often with pain than rest, you reflect on the long road behind you. You have survived hunger, illness, labor, fear, and loss. Survival itself feels like an achievement. But survival has come at a cost. In Rome, aging is not rewarded. It is endured. And as strength fades further, another truth becomes clear: death is never far away, and in this empire, it is neither gentle nor private. Chapter 18. Death is everywhere. Death in the Roman Empire is not an event that interrupts life. It is a presence that accompanies it at every stage, from birth to old age, moving quietly alongside you, never hidden, never softened. You grow accustomed to it not because it is easy to accept, but because there is no alternative. To live in Rome is to live with death close enough to touch. You see death early. As a child, you watch small bodies wrapped and carried away. You hear whispered conversations about fevers that took someone overnight, about accidents that happened too quickly to prevent. There is no effort to shield you from these realities. Exposure is considered part of growing up. Understanding comes not through explanation, but through repetition. Bodies appear in public spaces with unsettling regularity. Someone collapses in the street. A laborer falls from scaffolding. A slave is beaten too severely. An old man simply does not wake up. Life continues around these moments. People pause briefly, step aside, and move on. The city does not stop for death. It absorbs it. Funerary practices exist, but they are shaped by class and resources. Wealthy families hold elaborate ceremonies, processions that move through streets with music, masks, and public displays of grief. These rituals are as much about status as remembrance. They remind the living of lineage and importance. For the poor, death is quieter. The body is prepared quickly, if at all. Burial happens outside the city walls, in crowded cemeteries or mass graves. Graves are shallow. Markers are simple or non-existent. Memory fades quickly. Within weeks, few remember where someone was laid to rest. Improper burial is deeply feared. Romans believe restless spirits wander if funeral rites are neglected. Families do what they can to avoid this fate, even when resources are scarce. Coins are placed for the journey. Small prayers are spoken. Fear of the dead shapes behavior as much as fear of dying. Plagues amplify death to overwhelming levels. When epidemics strike, bodies accumulate faster than rituals can keep pace. Fires burn constantly to dispose of the dead. The smell of smoke and decay fills the air. Panic spreads. People flee, carrying disease with them. Social bonds strain under the weight of fear. In these moments, the thin veneer of order cracks. Laws still exist, but enforcement weakens. Survival instincts take over. Families isolate themselves. Compassion becomes selective. Death feels closer, more personal, unavoidable. Violence contributes its share. Executions remain public. War casualties return home as memories or never return at all. Accidents continue. Disease persists. Death does not come from one source, but many, overlapping and compounding. You begin to understand that Romans do not fear death itself as much as they fear dying badly. A quick death is preferable. Prolonged suffering is dreaded. Illness, starvation, and punishment represent the worst ends, not because they end life, but because they extend pain. Philosophers speak of accepting death calmly. Stoicism encourages emotional restraint. But philosophy does not erase fear. It offers language to endure it. Ordinary people find comfort where they can, in routine, in faith, in distraction. Children play among tombs. Vendors sell goods near burial roads. Life and death coexist physically, not separated by distance or taboo. The dead occupy the margins of daily movement, always present, always remembered faintly. As you age, death feels less abstract. You have seen enough endings to recognize patterns. You know the signs. The quiet withdrawal. The shallow breathing. The final stillness. You have sat beside others and waited. You have been waited beside. When death finally comes close to you personally, it does not announce itself dramatically. It arrives as weakness, as exhaustion, as a moment when the body simply refuses to continue. There is no guarantee of comfort, no promise of peace. What follows depends on others. On whether someone notices. On whether rites are performed. On whether your name is spoken again. In Rome, death is not romanticized. It is practical. It clears space. It frees resources. It reminds the living to endure. And yet, despite its frequency, death still carries weight. It leaves absences that routines cannot fully erase. It shapes memory, even briefly. As the day in the Roman Empire draws closer to its end, you begin to understand something essential. Survival here is not measured in years lived, but in days endured. And Rome remembers very few of those days. Soon, you will confront the final truth, that even if you survive hunger, illness, labor, war, and age, the empire itself does not remember you. Chapter 19. Rome does not remember you. When you live long enough in the Roman Empire, you begin to notice how quickly people disappear. Not only through death, but through forgetting. Names fade from conversation. Faces blur in memory. Places where someone once stood are filled by someone else almost immediately. Rome is vast, crowded, and always moving forward, and it has little space for individual remembrance unless power or wealth has marked a life as exceptional. History, as Rome records it, is selective. Emperors, generals, senators, and conquerors are preserved in stone, text, and ceremony. Their victories are carved into monuments. Their failures are softened or erased. But these figures represent a tiny fraction of those who lived and died under Roman rule. The vast majority leave no trace behind. Their lives pass quietly, unrecorded and unacknowledged. If you are an ordinary person, your memory survives only as long as those who knew you are still alive. Family members may speak your name for a time. Children remember parents. Friends recall shared moments. But as generations pass, even these personal memories dissolve. There is no permanent marker for most lives. No inscription. No record. No acknowledgement that you were ever here. Tombs line the roads outside cities, bearing names and brief phrases. Some ask passers-by to remember them. Others state age, profession, or family connections. But even these markers weather and crumble. Stones crack. Letters fade. Eventually, the meaning disappears. The earth reclaims what memory cannot hold. For the poor, even this modest remembrance is rare. Burial sites are reused. Bones are moved. Graves overlap. The dead become anonymous layers beneath the living. This is not cruelty, but practicality. Space is limited. The living take precedence. Rome itself encourages forgetting. The empire depends on continuity, not individual legacy. It replaces workers, soldiers, and slaves without hesitation. Loss is absorbed into routine. Grief is private, brief, and quickly overshadowed by necessity. Even acts of bravery or kindness rarely survive beyond their immediate context. A laborer who works faithfully for decades leaves no trace. A mother who endures hardship to raise children is remembered only by those children, and only briefly. A slave who survives unimaginable conditions is still invisible to history. This realization is unsettling. You begin to understand that survival alone does not guarantee meaning. Endurance does not ensure remembrance. Life in Rome is not lived for legacy, but for continuation. Each day matters only because it allows the next one to happen. There are moments when this truth feels heavy. You look around at the city, its massive buildings, its roads stretching into the distance, and you know they were built by people like you, whose names are lost. Their labor remains, but they do not. Even great cities change. Buildings are repurposed, damaged, rebuilt. Neighborhoods shift. What feels permanent is actually temporary, just slower to disappear than human lives. Some seek meaning through family, hoping children will carry memory forward. Others turn to faith, trusting the gods to see what the world ignores. Some accept the truth quietly, finding peace in anonymity. There is no single response that makes forgetting easier. As you reflect on this, the noise of the city feels different, less personal. You are one among many, moving through systems far larger than yourself. The empire does not see you. It does not need to. And yet, within this indifference, life continues. People still laugh, love, hope, and struggle. Meaning is created in small moments, not grand recognition. Rome may not remember you, but you still experience each day fully, with all its pain and fleeting comfort. As night falls, you sense the end of the journey approaching. The day that began with survival ends with reflection. The empire stands, immense and uncaring, while individual lives flicker briefly within it. Only one chapter remains. A final quiet moment to understand what all of this means, and why, in the end, you would not last a single day in the Roman Empire. Chapter 20. Why you wouldn't last a day. When the day finally comes to an end, there is no clear signal to mark it. No gentle conclusion. No sense of resolution. Life in the Roman Empire does not wrap itself neatly or offer comfort at the close. It simply slows briefly, before beginning again. And it is in this quiet, exhausted moment that you begin to understand why surviving even a single day here would be so difficult. You arrived in this world without protection. Your life began as a question, not a promise. From birth, survival depended on decisions made by others, on circumstances beyond your control. Childhood offered no shelter from danger, no prolonged innocence. Hunger shaped your body and your thoughts. Illness followed you closely, waiting for weakness. Labor demanded more than the body could safely give. Violence was normalized, not hidden, woven into entertainment, law, and order. You lived beneath a system that valued function over well-being. Rome did not ask whether you were comfortable or fulfilled. It asked only whether you were useful. When you were strong, you worked. When you were weak, you were replaced. Care existed, but it was limited by scarcity, hierarchy, and fear. You navigated streets thick with filth, air heavy with smoke and decay. You drank water that weakened you. You relied on medicine that often harmed more than it healed. You trusted faith because knowledge could not explain what was happening to your body or your world. You watched others suffer publicly. You learned to accept cruelty as routine. You adapted, not because it was right, but because resistance was dangerous. You endured because endurance was the only option left. Even when you survived long enough to age, rest did not come. The body broke down slowly, and support faded. Old age offered no reward, no safety net, no guarantee of dignity. And when death finally arrived, it was unremarkable. Another ending among countless others. Another absence absorbed quietly by a city that never stopped moving. The Roman Empire is remembered for its power, its engineering, its law, and its ambition. But these achievements were built on lives lived at the edge of survival. They were constructed from exhaustion, fear, obedience, and loss. The marble and stones stand tall because countless ordinary people were worn down beneath them. From the outside, Rome appears strong and enduring. From within, it is relentless. It demands everything and offers very little in return. To survive even a single day requires luck, resilience, and submission to forces you cannot control. As you lie here now, in your own time, with your own safety and distance from that world, the contrast becomes clear. What feels normal today, clean water, medical care, protection for children, the expectation of dignity, would be unimaginable luxuries in the Roman Empire. This is why you would not last a day. Not because you are weak, but because the world itself was unforgiving. Survival there was not a measure of character, but of circumstance. And so, as this long day in ancient Rome fades into darkness, you can let it go. The noise quiets. The streets empty. The empire recedes into memory. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If you found yourself drawn into this story, you are gently invited to like the video and subscribe, so more quiet histories can be told. For now, rest. Breathe. You have returned safely to your own time.